All right, here we go. We are live, and thank you for joining another True Poker Dealer QA. My name is Mark. If you don't know me, if this is your first time here, I'm known on YouTube as True Poker Dealer. And for the first time in a long time, I'm actually dealing poker again. I am at Texas Card House in Dallas, and behind me you can see the Texas Card House live logo for Dallas. I did a training session there, and that's where this picture is taken from. And you can sometimes find me in the room training some up and coming dealers one-on-one, where I do recorded video sessions. You can also find me dealing poker to the poker players in Texas Card House in Dallas. I really do enjoy it there very much. Why am I there? Because it's a cool experience for me to have. I haven't dealt in a while, so I got to keep the skills fresh. And the GM is somebody who I've known for a really long time, and so there's a ton of comfort, some opportunity there as well. And tonight you can actually find me at 6 o'clock dealing the Texas Card House live stream for a couple hours. I'll be the first of two dealers that deal that game tonight. So curious to see what the action's like tonight. It's probably going to be a 5, 10, 20 no limit, possibly a 5, 10, 25 no limit. And it's going to be cool. Vic says, yo, hey, what's going on, Vic? Vic also says, I love that place. Yeah, Texas Card House in Dallas is a great place to play poker. There's a ton of action there. And the people are nicer than a lot of places in the country. I think it's a Texas thing. Could be a Dallas thing. I think it's a Texas thing in general. So, ton of action. They have pot limit Omaha, usually 125. Sometimes you see as high as 510, or I dealt a 1025 the other day. And they have a ton of 2-5 no limit, a ton of 1-2 no limit, and all these other no limit hold'em games. And yeah, so here, anybody that jumps in, Vic, you included, feel free to ask me anything. Like we had a couple weeks ago, I had trolls jump in and asking me random questions that were trying to troll me, and I'm just sitting here sort of answering them and deleting some of them. But yeah, ask me any questions at all. Whatever you guys want to know, I'm happy to answer. I'm here to have fun, spend some time with everybody. It's Tuesday, that's why I'm here. Mixing my schedule up a little bit, so I'm anticipating keeping Tuesday for the immediate future and then adding an additional day as well. On a weekend, and I have to sort of figure out what I want to do with that. I think over the long run, I want to transition this time to a weekend day instead of a weekday, because I think more people are available for it then. Maybe Sunday would be good. You could put me on during football and sort of listen to both at the same time or something like that. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so here I am, and I'm going to start out. I got a question from someone who's been a long-time member of the True Poker Dealer YouTube channel. Appreciate the membership very, very much. And I'm going to start out answering that question. I did answer the question personally, but here's what I got asked. The question is, I found this in the Rampage Poker group. If you don't know who Rampage Poker is, he is one of the more popular poker vloggers. Let me actually pull his channel up. He's a good guy. A lot of people seem to like him, and he's a good storyteller. Brad Owen is like the best storyteller in my personal opinion, and also I think in YouTube's as well, where he has the most subscribers. And Rampage sort of started and modeled it after him. And let's see if I can do a little window capture. See what I can get. He's also won an online bracelet recently, which is pretty cool to watch. I did a little video on that. What do we got? Window capture. Let's pull it up. Let's see how it shows up. I'm not sure how it'll show up. Let's see. No. All right. So we got this here, a little window capture with Rampage. I gotta shrink this, I guess. Shrink it down like this. All right. So you guys can see who we're talking about. So he's got a Facebook group. A lot of great Facebook groups out there nowadays. And Rampage has got one of them, and let's see. If we go into his Facebook group, we can sort of see this question right here. And so here, I'm sort of in the way. Let me get me out of the way. All right. So you can join the Rampage Poker group. I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with me talking about this. I'm just here to help. But yeah, you just apply to be in the Rampage Poker group. If you know who he is and you like watching his poker vlogs on YouTube where he shows you his highlight hands from poker sessions, you can jump in there and look at that. But here we go. So the question I was asked is, what do I think of this, basically? Specifically, found this in the Rampage Poker group. This took place at the Firekeepers Casino in Michigan. How would you handle a situation like this, is the question I was asked. And here it says, where do you draw the line when it comes to etiquette in the poker room? When is it appropriate to call the floor to have another player removed from the table or property? Furthermore, isn't it the dealer's job to more or less act as a moderator between players when someone's out of line or breaking the rules? Either way, Firekeepers is an interesting card room, to say the least. It was so interesting. A regular threatened to kill me through gang signs and told me he knew he never seen me in jail because he would have had my ass. Anyway, I got felted twice, and it took a little while to build back up to the green. Only turned a $500 profit, but it was worth it just for the dramatic experience alone. Hope everyone else had a thrilling day. Villain fought security as they dragged his sorry behind outside. He was mad because I asked him if he's ever been in New Jersey. All right, so that particular post I don't believe has anything to do with Rampage. It's just Rampage provided a Facebook group where people could talk poker. And the person posting that, they had clearly an experience where they maybe felt a little uncomfortable. You can see here that they want everybody to know that they sort of won the moment. That's sort of my interpretation, but I do think I'm right about that. But nonetheless, the question is, what do you do as a dealer? What is the house supposed to do? And it's a good question because, when it comes to a player sort of aggressively confronting another player at the table, there's a lot of dealers that'll sort of just allow that to happen. So this answer is relatively simple. If you have a player going at another player with any type of a threatening tone or manner to it, once it gets to the point where it might even be threatening in any type of a real way, it's an automatic floor call. You just get the floor over there and you tell them to the best of your ability what was said. So if I'm hearing something like that, I'm going to call the floor over and I'm going to say, these two players, I'm going to include both of the players. These two players are involved in something that's somewhat confrontational. This player just, gave what could have been interpreted as a death threat to this player. I don't know how serious it is, but I figured it was time for you to come over here. Something like that is the right conversation to have with a supervisor. And then at that point, the supervisor is really supposed to stick around. So if you're a floor and you get called over by a dealer like that, please do not do the thing where you come to the table and you say, okay guys, don't do this anymore. That is absolutely terrible. Don't do that. Okay, remember, I am a poker dealer trainer and I've trained many dealers. I have been a supervisor and shift manager as well, and I've trained as many supervisors as dealers, personally anyway. My YouTube channel has trained more dealers than I've trained supervisors, but you know what I'm saying. I've trained a ton of supervisors. When it comes to supervising, if you get called over to the table due to something like a confrontation, drop everything else you're doing and stick around. All right. If you don't have the ability to do that because you're in a room where there's not another supervisor, you shouldn't be in a room without another supervisor. It's just the way that it is. Like if you got 2 to 3 to 4 tables, you should be able to monitor all of them. So stick around and monitor everything else that's going on too. But that's a time to stick around and make sure that nothing escalates. The thing that you can say to the table is, all right, I wasn't here for this, but this does need to stop, and I'm going to stick around and make sure that it stops. Something like that, okay? And as soon as it sort of acts as a warning as well. You can directly warn players that confrontation, like what the dealer just described, can lead to ejection, so that you're not using going to lead to ejection. You give yourself the ability to make a judgment call. But it's really important that if there are things such as death threats or anything like that, I mean, the way that the player described it leaves some room for interpretation, right? If it's absolutely clear and you're the dealer and you know for sure this player just threatened this player, then you call a supervisor and it's time to get that player kicked out. Okay, you say this player just threatened this player and it sounded serious, or this player just threatened this player's life, and they might say, oh, I didn't mean to do it. They should still be kicked out. If you're a supervisor and you hear that, you come to the table, you kick them out. If you're not sure how serious it is, because people say stuff in jest and you have to sort of figure out, do you want to kick a player out because of that? You got to communicate what happened to the best of your ability. Is all that my point is there. So let's see. So hopefully that answered that question. And as a supervisor, I enjoy a rule set in a poker room, in a poker environment, where any type of actual confrontation, threats, death threats, threatening to take it outside, anything like that, gets the player kicked out who is doing that. That to me is a no-brainer. It should be done all the time, where you're ejecting people for that type of behavior. It's like a common thing in poker to sort of, see who the alpha is, and if it gets serious like that, like this isn't like television when you're in a poker room and there's other players around that they don't know if they're going to get caught in the middle of a crossfire of punches or something like that. So if you do hear any actual threats to another person, then that player does need to be kicked out and it needs to be communicated clearly. When I read a Facebook post talking about it, I tend to not know if there's exaggeration, someone trying to make themselves sound correct or in the right. A lot of people try to reframe things that actually happen. So I'm talking, when I was talking about that situation, I'm not sure exactly what happened. If I was a dealer there, I would know what happened. And yeah, anytime it gets to that point, you call a supervisor for sure. And again, do want to remind everybody, I am here to answer questions, and I've got the TCH Live logo for Dallas behind me. That is the actual live stream table you can see there, and that I will be dealing tonight at 6 p.m. The 5, 10, 20 no limit hold'em game, which should be pretty interesting. Curious who's going to show up and play that. Curious what the action's going to be like, and should be a good time. It's also interesting, putting the headset on and communicating with the team in the back and all the stuff that goes into it. Definitely looking forward to that. But looking forward to your questions too. Anything that you want to ask me, I am here for. Let's see. I had some other questions too. What else did we have? Let me look through my YouTube links. A good place to catch me with questions anytime is just put a comment on one of my videos. If you put a comment on one of my videos, I'm going to see it. I might not see it for a day or 2 or 3, but I will see it at some point soon. Recently, I've been reached out to by a bunch of people in Texas that are either involved in potentially opening new rooms or looking to see what it takes, or all that type of stuff. Anybody can always send me an email at marc@truepokerdealer.com. It's marc@truepokerdealer.com. I do consulting for different things, rooms that are opening. Generally, I've done it in rooms where markets already exist, but I can also do it if they don't. However, I'm definitely not able to support anything that's illegal. Let's see. Oh, we got a question. Zach. Hey, Zach, what's going on? To what extent would you actually intervene if a fight escalated? Do you just call security and protect your bank? So ideally, your role as a dealer is to get attention to it before it happens. Ideally, it's almost impossible for, I will answer your question. It's almost impossible though for something to go from nothing to fighting, right? I mean, it would literally have to be a huge, insanely quick blow up, probably between people who already had a history together. And I've never actually seen a fight escalate at a table with no build up. So because of that, really what you want to do is call a supervisor as soon as you feel that vibe, as soon as that confrontation starts to escalate. And you want to call floor loudly and with the table number so that the supervisors know exactly where to go, and with a little bit of urgency, if it's something like that. Now, if there was actually a fight at the table, in table games, it's a little bit different. You have more of a responsibility to protect the money. In poker, usually the banks that are at the table are not, anything that's gonna break the house's profits. So I mean, like at a Texas Card House, it's like 1,500 in the well, right? Some poker rooms is only 400 to 600, and obviously you do want to protect that, but it's not. This is my whole focus. I'm not going to pay attention to anything else. If there's a fight that does start on the table, it's just you yelling security and floor as loud as you can, as frequently as you can, until they come over. If they happen to be on the seats next to you, I've never seen this before. You certainly don't want to sit there and take blows, right? Nobody's expecting you to be in the crossfire for something that's happening between seats 1 and 9, for instance, right? But if it's like seats 4 and 5, which again, I've never actually seen this as a supervisor, as a dealer. I've never seen two people at a table just start duking it out. Like maybe a video online of a couple of people who have sort of gotten into it. I remember seeing one at some poker room. It might have been Aria, but I don't hold me to that. But you definitely want to call when confrontation starts so that it never gets to that point. And this is why you kick players out as a supervisor, and this is why your poker room should have a policy that kicks players out once they start becoming confrontational with each other. Now, as a supervisor, I have when a player has stood up and seemed to have an aggressive action toward a dealer, I have personally stepped right in between there. It's not a part of the job description. It's just something that I sort of learned to do in order to diffuse it. I had a good reputation in the poker room that I was at there. The players didn't think of me as somebody to take a swing at, and also you have surveillance throughout the whole property at most casinos, so the recourse is pretty significant because it's incredibly clear if you get assaulted. That said, you're putting yourself in danger by getting in the middle of it, and I was lucky enough in a couple of situations to not be swung at, but and it did diffuse the situation, but I don't know that I would ever suggest somebody do that, and especially not a dealer. People just, when they're seeing red, they're seeing red. Now, if there's an employee that you see that is aggressively going after a player, which I've only heard of once, and this person did get fired, of course, as an employee, I would probably yell to the floor and restrain them so that they don't, it's somebody that you work with, so that they don't get themselves over that edge. You might lose your job though for abandoning the bank, is what it is. But these are really tough questions. But yeah, and Zach says, just curious mostly. Any fights I've ever seen start to break out, players stop. Yeah, I was getting to that point too, and that happened in the video. A lot of the time, players will actually jump in. There's usually, think about who poker players are. They're people who are sort of alphas in their own mind, used to confrontation and all that stuff. You do get a handful of people at the table who are capable when it comes to stepping in and diffusing things like that. And I've seen players jump in when people get confrontational usually before it turns into an actual fight, honestly. There's very few fights that I've actually seen in person, and I've worked in some rough neighborhoods where there's rough poker rooms. So, yeah, I just want to make sure this is clear. This is related to a question that I was asked about when is too much, and I personally don't think this is something that comes up very much. Because dealers are generally good at stopping confrontation, you sort of have to use your head also as a dealer. There's certain things that you just aren't going to be trained at. And for those things, use your head, right? Like, what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do as a dealer. If there's something that's in a gray area where you don't know, do something that you think is smart. Don't just follow the procedure the way that you're told all the time. For example, even if you're wrong to call a floor over, even if the floor says you didn't need to call me for that, it's still good to call them if you think there might be confrontation, for example. Farron says, I'm considering dealing as a change. Any advice? Well, yes, you've come to the right place for this. And I guess my first question in order to give any real valuable advice would be, what are you coming from? So Farron, if you could say what your previous line of work has been that you're changing from, I can certainly give you some advice. A couple of things that come to mind. Also, say how old you are, or ballpark in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, because that's going to also affect the advice that I personally give. A couple of things that come to mind though. Try to get yourself a dealing job. Well, so you have to get trained. Obviously, this is why you've come to the right place. I have a course online that does teach everything that you would need in order to be able to become a poker dealer. I'm assuming that because you're talking about dealing, you're talking about poker. Table games is also a viable option, though, depending on a person's personality, to see what they like more. Farron says truck driver 52. Got it. Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind is, let's see. A poker dealer is probably going to make $25 to $40 an hour, depending on your dexterity and all that type of stuff. You do get to sit down during this job, which is similar to being a truck driver. And in my experience, you don't need to work full time in order to pay your bills comfortably. However, my poor understanding of being a truck driver, I believe you get pretty decent pay from that. So, I would say this, it can be hard to deal 5 days a week. So if you're thinking about jumping into this for a full-time job and you're going to need the full-time hours in order to change careers, I would probably hesitate. It takes a toll on the mind and body to deal that much. When you're driving, my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding as a truck driver is you have the ability to be on a headset and talk to people throughout the time that you're working, and you can sort of keep yourself loose and relaxed and entertained, and you're using autopilot to drive to a degree. There's not really a whole lot of opportunity for autopilot as a poker dealer. You got to be pretty locked in while you're doing it, so it does use up a bit of energy. And so I tend to recommend people to try to work 4 to 5 days a week instead of 5 days a week. So if you think that, 3 to 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week, not 4 to 5 days a week. 5 days a week is a poker dealer. Some people can do it totally. It's a bit tough. After about a year, it sort of gets to you. 4 days a week is a huge difference. So that said, if you think that you can pay the bills comfortably on $25 to $40 an hour for about 25 to 35 hours a week, I think that you probably would like it. I do personally enjoy the little bits of conversation that come up. You can't talk too much as a poker dealer, but you can in between hands and when people start engaging you in some conversation once you've trained yourself to be able to do it. I personally enjoy that side of it. But also a lot of people are going to direct negativity towards you. You're probably not used to that as a truck driver. So the advice would be, hey, do you think this is something you can handle? I do also really enjoy being present for some competition. And the game of poker is sort of interesting. I've been dealing a lot more 2-5 no limit deep stack games because they do match the stack at Texas Card House. And people sit with thousands of dollars at a 2-5 no limit, and the play is pretty complex in some pots because you got people that are so deep that they're putting more moves on other people because there's so much more stack behind to risk that it puts pressure on and all this stuff. What other things would I say for advice? I would say if you can take on a poker dealing job, I say this to everybody. I don't care if you're 22 or 52. I personally think it's a great job to work 3 or 4 days a week and then give yourself 3 days off a week or so to be able to create some kind of a other passive income route for yourself. There's very few things that are jobs in the United States that do not require you to work full time. Forget about the amount of money that you make. There's very few jobs that are just like, oh, I can train for 140 hours, get this job, and then I don't have to work full time and I can pay all my bills. And dealing poker is one of them. I personally push very hard for people to figure out, can I use my 2 days a week over the course of a year or two to build something that's passive income for myself instead of just spending all my money that I'm making. I think it's a very valuable opportunity that dealing poker provides. I know that 3 to 4 days off a week it's not necessarily a ton, but it can be enough in order to build something up for yourself. And I am sort of considering creating a graduate program for people who have already learned to deal poker and are already dealing poker in poker rooms in the United States, to help people that want to figure out how to create passive income for themselves on top of being a poker dealer. I think there's a ton of opportunity out there, and a lot of people just don't know how to get started, and it's something that I've sort of worked in. But if that's appealing to you and you feel like you're the type of person who can sit down and do that, I would say do it. You can also pick up another job too, right? If you're a poker dealer and you're dealing 3 days a week, you're going to make pretty good money, and you have the ability to work another 2 to 3 days a week doing something else. You're not going to be so burnt out from dealing poker that you won't be able to deal something else. It's just that, or you won't be able to do another job. It's just that dealing poker for 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, puts quite a toll on the body. So let's see, anything else I can give advice in terms of figuring out whether or not dealing poker is right for you. I mean, I sort of make it pretty easy. Just jump on YouTube on my channel, which you maybe have already done since you're here, and check out the first 6 lessons in the How to Deal Poker playlist that I have, and you watch these videos. There's a video that I put out that is called How to Take Advantage of Truepokerdealer. Check that video out, because in the description, you have to click on the description. In the description, I have a list of materials that you can buy so that you can sort of start doing this at home. And for free, you can watch lessons 1 through 6, and you can sort of start with the mechanics and see if this is something that feels like you can do. Also, the more familiar you are with the rules of poker as a poker player, the easier it is to learn. Everything's still there, even if you haven't done that, but that does make it easier. Riff Raff says, Amazon Prime Day just came, I spent all my money. Interesting, I did not know it was Amazon Prime Day. I'm going to go look that up now, because Amazon Prime Day, does that mean that it's over? When is it? Prime Day. I don't know when it is. Is it today? Tell me if it's today. Farron says, thanks. You're welcome. Jeffrey says, I have an eBay store I run on my days off. Exactly. And it ends today. Okay, so then after I get off, I'll have about an hour before I have to run to Texas Card House to deal the live stream. Maybe I'll check out some Amazon Prime deals. Farron, I'm curious if I sort of hit the nail on the head for you, or if you have some more specific questions, open-ended questions, any advice. It's really tough for me to nail specific questions. I can certainly come through on that. Hit Girl says, I love dealing poker. If I wasn't sitting there dealing, I'd be sitting there playing, but you never lose in seat 10. Seat 10 is Hit Girl referring to a 9-handed table and the dealer being the 10th person at the table. Absolutely true. Poker Pro Michael Lockey, who I do the live poker coaching channel with, which is growing and growing all the time. He jumped on here and talked about how, well, one of the things that he talks about in live poker coaching actually is how, as a 2-5 no limit player, your max hourly isn't going to be that much better than your dealing hourly. And so you might as well just deal. There's no variance really. It's like you just get your money. As a poker dealer, that seat at the table is always guaranteed to be profitable. And it's a great thing. Really good point. So, yeah, you're gonna spend your time at. There's a bunch of people that they start out as poker players and then they're just like, the swings. I might as well just be a dealer, and they're right. Especially 1-2 no limit. It's really hard to hit that hourly that you hit as a dealer between 25 and $40 an hour at a 1-2 no limit game. In Texas, you could probably do it because the games play a bit bigger, but in general, it can be really tough to hit that big hourly. That being said, because it's hard to deal poker for 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, long term, like you can do it for about a year, and then eventually it can be really hard to just keep that up 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. Because that's hard, there are people who recommend dealing poker 3 days a week, playing poker 2 to 3 days a week. Even if you're a poker pro, like a medium to low stakes poker pro, because then you're getting some stable income with no fluctuation, no variance, and you're also playing poker, and you're not burning yourself out as a dealer when you're playing. And there's a lot to be said for that too. Riffraff says it's a 2-day event. Today's the second day. Awesome. Farron says, sounds like I can make a gradual change. Yeah, you do have to put the work in. So if you do decide to pursue this, it's not easy. It's not as easy as you think. Or maybe it is as hard as you think. Maybe you've overdone your research already. But what I'm trying to say is, I have about 35 hours of lessons for Texas Hold'em alone, which I say it's for Texas Hold'em. It includes the mechanics and it includes like all the stuff that you have to train your hands to do and your mind to do that's universal across all poker. I put all that into Texas Hold'em because Texas Hold'em is the most common thing to deal in casinos. That's 35 hours worth of learning, what to do. And then you have to practice. It ends up being about 140 hours in order to get to the point where you can do it in a casino. So that 140 hours is not like, I'm going to go watch 140 hours of television and chill. Like it's pretty high concentration time, right? You do need to spread that out usually over a couple months. It's not like you can just do that there's 168 hours in a week, for instance. You couldn't just do that 140 hours in 1 week and sleep like 4 hours a night. You'd never be able to get through that. So it's high concentration, 140 hours, and you sort of want to commit to it if you're going to do it. That's why I say start with the lessons that I talked about 1 through 6 on my YouTube channel. See if it's for you. And if you think you got it and you think you can do the mechanics and all that stuff, commit to it, and you should be able to get through it. Zach says, at TCH, you could probably have an hourly of like 100 an hour at 2-5 as a solid player with a good roll. I'm not going to say that you're wrong. The games are so deep there that, when the fish fly in, you probably can do really well. I don't personally know what anybody's hourly is at those 2-5 games at TCH. And I can tell you as a dealer, it would be incredibly hard to hit 100 an hour as a dealer. That being said, those fluctuations on those stacks have to be crazy. I can't even imagine what they are, because there's people that, show up with shirts that say no gamble, no future, right? Which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing in the sense that if your bankroll is big enough, you can sustain that. It's a bad thing if you're playing beyond your bankroll, which is easy to do. Like when you go to a poker table and you see like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 stacks and these people are beatable, well, it's pretty tempting to want to buy in 5, 6, 7,000, but it's not so tempting if your whole bankroll is 15 grand, right? It's not so tempting if your whole bankroll is 10 grand. It's not so tempting if your whole bankroll is 5 grand. Or maybe it is still tempting and you can lose it all. And then, what do you do to get back up again? So that being said, most most pros, people that are winning at poker, are not going to absolutely max out. Like if you're good enough to make 100 an hour at 2.5, you should probably be playing higher games. Or maybe I'm wrong, and maybe those are the juiciest games there, and I just don't know. And Zach, I give you credit. I don't know you as a poker player, but I have had a couple of conversations with you where I get the sense that you definitely know poker. And so I'm going to assume that you are a winning poker player in the long run. And I'm going to assume that your estimate of that is probably better than mine would be. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I'm thinking. Let's see. So, what else we got? Let's see. I definitely, I talked about it in my last little pop-up live stream where I dealt to Brad Owen, and that was pretty interesting. Definitely a very, very good guy. He has yet to post that vlog for the Texas Card House Dallas session meetup game. I'm assuming I'm probably going to be in it for a couple of hands just because, like I think I told you guys, there are a couple of interesting hands that I happen to deal that one or two of them should make the vlog, but, we'll see. Hard to tell. And, yeah, let's see. What else? There was one other thing I wanted to talk through. Oh, I had a comment from somebody. Mikov, if you commented on it, I don't know what happened. There was a comment that you put out, and you said you wanted me to respond to it, and it had something to do with an 8-16 game, and the comment is not there anymore. So I don't know where the comment went. I'm guessing that you deleted it, but hopefully you did delete it, and it didn't get deleted in some other way. I just went back to look at it, and it was gone because you had asked me to. So this is a good method for anybody that's watching this and wants to ask me sort of a detailed question. Feel free to put a question in the comments and ask me to address it in a live stream, and I should be able to do that without any problem. Jeff says, I saw the TCH live stream was 10-handed, or all the games there 10-handed. The TCH live stream was 10-handed, is 10-handed, I should say, and no, the games at Texas Card House, other than the live stream, are 9-handed. They make that 10-handed because having one extra hand out there does create a little bit more action, which is good for people watching. It also allows one additional person to be a part of the live stream, which makes one extra person happy. So, and there might be other reasons that I'm not aware of. I think the table is just huge, so there's room for it also. But yeah, it's the only table in the house that I've ever seen go 10-handed. Everything else is 9, or like for the Congress game, which is the Big O High Low, it's 8-handed. Good question though. Interesting that you noticed that. But yeah, they have 10-handed at that live stream game. And if anybody here ever wants to play in one of the live streams, when they offer the 2-5 no limit, it's 1,000 min buy-in, and sometimes it's easy to get into that game. A lot of the time they find people day of because we have so many 2-5 games. Other times it's full, but I will say this: people that jump in the live stream and they're interesting poker players end up becoming known in Texas. You end up with something like 1,500 people watching you live at any given time, and it's a pretty cool feeling. I've experienced this as True Poker Dealer. Going to a poker room and being recognized is a pretty cool feeling. These guys that play in the live stream, they end up going to poker rooms and being recognized by the players. Hey, I saw you playing in the live stream, blah 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 blah. It's kind of a cool vibe. I really think that this whole thing that they've done is smart and a very powerful thing that they've done. So I give Texas Card House a lot of credit. I know I haven't done any interviews lately. I've tossed around, I've thrown out a couple of interview requests, and for different reasons they fell through. I was expecting to do an interview this past Saturday. I didn't end up doing it. I was expecting to do an interview today. I didn't end up doing it. If you guys have anybody out there that you want me to interview that you think is accessible, I'd be happy to do it. As long as it's somebody that I feel like I would be curious to interview, I'm totally down. Oh, that reminds me. I'm looking. If you're a left-handed experienced poker dealer, I definitely still want to do a left-handed poker dealing interview, talking through what it's like being lefty and some of those types of things. I've had multiple requests for that, and I tried to set it up, and then the person had to cancel because of family issues, which was sort of a sad story. But definitely interested in that. But yeah, I'm also curious, like, what types of interviews would you guys like? You know, it would be hard for me to get somebody like Brad Owen or somebody like, actually, maybe I could do up and coming vloggers and just ask them what it's like. But I'm sort of curious what you guys think of when I talk about interviewing people. Anything there? All right, what else have I got here? I'm going to jump back into this Rampage Facebook poker group and see if there's something else that's interesting that maybe I can just look at. Why not, right? Let's get the discussion here. Facebook groups are a fantastic place to go if you're trying to learn about being a poker dealer too. Let's see here. I'm scrolling through to see if there's anything. Hey, I'll be heading down to Central Florida this weekend. I plan on playing at the Tampa Greyhound Track Poker Room. I also see that there is another poker room called Silks. Anyone have any experience at Silks? It's interesting. Tampa Greyhound Track Poker Room. I have footage from when I did a poker vlog at that exact room, and I still have to bring all that footage together and release the vlog. This was back in January. It's just so much work, though. It's an absolute ton of work in order to get all that stuff together. But I did do 2 sessions as a poker player, playing 1-3 no limit, and they were even nice enough to let us get an overhead shot of the table so that you could see the action go around the table in addition to the camera shots. Thought I'd give it a shot, and it turns out that Brad Owen was not joking when he said that it takes hours to create that footage. It's like an insane amount of work, and it floored me. There's a total of 4 videos that we want to make from that, and only one of them is mostly done, and it's just like, it's a lot of work. Jeff says, I know a Southpaw dealer, do you conduct your interviews via Skype? I use something called StreamYard, and you can go back and see some of the interviews. StreamYard is a really simple tool that is like $25 a month that makes interviewing a breeze. Super, super highly recommended to any YouTuber out there. Run2127 says hello. Hello. Riffraff, a couple notes about the Mixed Nuts app. I added a hardcore mode where you don't get the sort reveal features. Also, I won't be updating it for a while, at least on the App Store. No access to Mac. Curious what that means, but okay. On the summary screen, it does show if you played in hardcore mode, so that's really cool. I did pose the challenge last time I did a live stream like this for anybody to send me their best times. Nobody sent me an email, which I would have loved to receive some emails with people's best times. I did actually take some screenshots of some of the times that I got, which I should send them to myself right now, and we can take a look at those. And that's awesome that there's a hardcore mode. Let's see. So I'm going to send these to my computer so that we can look at these together. Here we go. Coming in. Where are these? I'm opening these up so you guys can see what my times were. All right. So we'll do it like this. So, which one are we doing first? All right, so I tried a few times. I did this when I was on an airplane. It's actually a great thing to be doing on an airplane. So here, where's my image? I gotta hit up my desktop and then find these images. Where are they? Let's see. I don't know which one this is, but I think this is the Texas Hold'em one. All right, so we got this right here. It's faded. I'll have to fix that. And where do I do that? Filters. It's still faded. I don't know why. I know this is a little boring right now. Okay, so this was my Texas Hold'em attempt. I was able to get 10 out of 10 with no errors, which this is what the challenge is, and I was able to do it in a total of 1 minute 8.97 seconds. So if you can beat 1 minute and 8.97 seconds, you'll impress me. That's at Texas Hold'em. And then let's go to the next one, which is right here. So I did Omaha 8, and I was able to do that in 2 minutes, 39.52 seconds, 0 errors. So I felt like super locked in, and I was just like, okay, what is it? Okay, what is it? Okay, what is it? Okay, what is it? Every single time. Probably took me like 3 attempts to get one with 0 errors, trying to go as fast as I could. But the thing I really want is I really want to try to beat someone else's time live on here. And just in case you don't know what this is a free iOS or Android app that is called Mixed Nuts. I'm going to put that in the chat. It's already there. Mixed Nuts. So you can just literally search for Mixed Nuts on your phone in a Google Play Store if you have an Android, or on the iOS store if you have an iPhone. And you just download this free app that Riff Raff Games made. It's amazing. It's a hand reading tool. Just search. Let's see. Search for Mixed Nuts on your phone's app store, and then you can get this and try to beat me. Here's my Omaha time. Let's see, what else do I got? It's here. I didn't do all of them. I did, I think, 5 of them. Here's the third one. What is it? I just have to scroll really far. Let's see what I got next. Oh, I did Big O. This is a high-low also. I did 3 minutes and 17 seconds, 0.7. All right. So we got, I'm going to put all the times in one little message at the bottom here. So look, if you can beat these times, I'll be impressed. 0 errors, right? Let's see, what else did I get? We'll go find the next one. And do it in hardcore mode so that we can see that you're not cheating. It's awesome that you made the hardcore mode, by the way. Very impressive. Badoogie, 3 minutes 12.7. So that was, I remember that one being like, because you got to look through and make sure the suits are, like see how many suits there are, and then when nobody has a 4-card Badoogie, you're just like, oh god, you know. And then the last one I did, but you can try for any of these. I will try as hard as I can to beat whatever you put up there in hardcore mode. Deuce to 7, I was able to do it in 1 minute 48.8 for all 10. So yeah, let's see if you guys can beat these times. So just as a quick little recap here, what do we got? We got, all right, I'm gonna put these times down here. So Texas Hold'em, let's see, 1:08:97. All right, and then we got Omaha 8, 2:39:52, and then we got Big O is 3:17:72, and then we've got I think deuce to 7 is probably next, so I'll put that next. Deuce to 7 triple draw, which is 1:48:80, and then Badoogie, which is 3:12:79. You beat any of those times, I will be super impressed, and I will then probably be determined to beat you back on a live stream. All right, now I got to catch up in some comments here. Let's see. Riffraff says we have more than 2 or 3 left-handed dealers at my room. Yeah, there's a bunch of left-handed dealers out in the poker world, and you know I had one of them when I got to Texas Card House. Real nice guy. Come and start asking me a bunch of questions like, you know, how to do this, how to do this, and how do I do this, how do I do this, and I was like, well, I know what I've seen left-handed dealers do, but you know, I'm sort of always open-minded to optimizing something, and if I haven't trained it a ton, I'm sort of not going to just jump in and say I know the best way to do it. I'm going to evaluate it individually and see what the real answer is. Let's see. Riffraff says, Run says, I heard about you by the TCH commentators and looked at some of your dealing and stuff, and seems like something I could do. Oh, great. Let's see. But probably would have issues with the high-low Omaha, and I've only played PLO once down in Houston TCH, so I probably would need to learn the amounts pre-flop. I do teach all of that. If you join my channel at the bonus mixed games level, you'd be able to learn all that stuff. I do a full PLO video. It's about 2.5 hours long. You'd have access to it if you join my True Poker Dealer channel at the bonus mixed games level. You can see, if you go to the playlist for that, you'd be able to see what's in that video. But that'll give you everything you need in order to be able to deal PLO. It's a challenge. It takes some effort in order to become a poker dealer. But boy, there's people in here that are poker dealers with me, and it can be a very profitable decision. You know, instead of 4 years in college, right? Like you can just spend 140 hours over the course of like 2 months and really learn to do it, and then you've got money in your pocket whenever you need it. Let's see. Riffraff says you need a Mac to compile the code for iOS apps. I didn't have one, but was renting a virtual one in order to get the app on the iOS store. Oh, I gotcha. Renting a virtual Mac is interesting. I didn't know that was a thing, but you are definitely somebody that would be able to do that. Eventually, I'll have a Mac of my own to do that, but it will be a month or two. Okay, so there's no rush there. What's the link to this? You CNF, you know where to find it now, right? Very nice times, thanks. All right, cool. So let's see. Ron said, I believe it's 3 times the previous person's bet plus the previous people's total, isn't it? So the answer is yes. There's some nuances to that, and I go over all of that in the video. For example, they call it the trail, bets that are in front of people. You know, if the trail is in front of the active player who is the one to bet, then that doesn't count as the trail. But yeah, I mean, when somebody is a poker player with a relatively decent amount of experience, it does make it a lot easier for them to become a poker dealer, because you sort of are familiar with the rules. However, you don't usually know as much as you think, which is sort of funny. Um, it's like anybody who plays a lot of poker, they don't always realize that as the dealer, you have to have all the answers or be able to call the floor properly, and then the floor has to have all the answers. And there's a lot of decisions that you sort of have to make as a dealer. Um, and so there's some thinking that's involved in very nuanced circumstance. But I mean, based on your very brief comments here, you seem like somebody that is ahead of the game in terms of your knowledge of poker. Your communication is pretty solid also. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're doing nowadays, but look, being a poker dealer, it's definitely something that pays the bills. You don't need to be full time in order to pay those bills. You have time on the side to work on other things, and it can really be a beautiful thing. So, I say a lot of positive things about that. CNF says, yeah, I found it. Great, great, great. Mixed Nuts, Riffraff, I appreciate you jumping in and saying that. Run says, I drive semi-trucks. Oh, we had somebody else earlier that was literally talking about the same thing. Pretty awesome. And toward the beginning of this, I had somebody who says that they drive trucks for a living, and they're 52, and they're looking for some advice about switching to being a poker dealer. I mean, look, one thing about dealing poker, you are never risking your life in the same way as you are being on the road, right? Riffraff says, I had a player the last couple of days who was a truck driver. I've dealt to many truck drivers as poker players. Run says, I'm 28. Nice. I dealt to many truck drivers as poker players. It's always nice because they tend to tell better stories. Because they've experienced a lot of stuff a lot of the time. Yeah, also, it seems like you can build up a nice little bankroll being in a truck all the time. So, what else we got here? Casino parking lots are a good place to pull over and relax. That makes sense, yeah. Lots of parking in casinos. I've never actually seen somebody bring their truck to the poker room. Run, when you go to play poker, are you bringing your truck to the poker room? Like, is that what you're parking on property? And you're just sort of hopping out of the truck and going to play poker? I'm sort of interested in that. Or do you leave the truck somewhere else? Let's see. Let me catch up on something real quick here. So, let's see. What else we got? Yeah, I'm really curious to see if anybody can beat my time on hardcore mode. I'm going to get it now and see what... I'm going to open up Mixed Nuts and see if it's updated. Is it updated? Does it have hardcore mode built in? Options toward the bottom. Hide timer. Hardcore mode. Alright, so you can turn on hardcore mode. Got it. And... sweet. I like it. Let's see what else. I might be taking a trip out to Austin in a couple of weekends just to check it out. I've never been there before. Would love to hear recommendations for places to go and check out in Austin. Riffraff says it will be. I updated it like 10 days ago, just forgot to email you about it. Yeah, it's updated. I see hardcore mode there. Oh, right. The delay. So you just heard me say that. By the way, my hat goes off to you, Riffraff. It's just a truly, truly smooth experience using that. There was one thing that so I had my 9-year-old try to use it, and I've experienced this too. He just had to keep pressing the check button over and over and over again. If you could make those buttons a little bit larger, so that they have more surface area, more pixels to press, I think it would make it a slightly easier experience. When I was trying to go fast on the plane, the checkbox was hard to hit when I wanted to hit it because it's really small. Not a huge deal, but would probably make it slightly better if possible. I don't really know how that side of it works. I'm certainly not a video game programmer. Um, Run says, I played at the Grand Casino up in Oklahoma that had a truck stop out front of it. Oh, that's awesome. Farron says, I parked mine under the highway across the street from TCH. That's also awesome. Riffraff says, yeah, that's a long term to do, a larger area for the checkbox. I did have that feedback a while ago. Cool. You park it under the highway across the street from TCH. Interesting. Say hi the next time you're in there. I always want people to say hi. Oh, Justin's in here, and he is a troll. So we've got some of the trolls here. And they come in every so often. So we do a little report and harassment. And this one's harassing me, so I'll put that there. And they are gone. Shout out to YouTube for making it very easy to handle trolls. Usually when one troll jumps in, there's more. So I'm sort of curious if we're going to get more of that. I mean, look, if somebody can jump in and troll me in a way that makes me laugh, I'll probably like it. But at the same time, I mean, you got to do a better job, right? Because their goal seems to be to actually get somebody to be upset. And, I mean, boy, did that say something about how their lives are, right? So what else we got? Anybody else got anything else? I don't feel the need to stick around here too long today. I do have to go deal with the TCH live stream tonight. I got to get myself prepared and out the door for that. But yeah, what else we got? Maybe I should add some stories here. So what's happened with me dealing the last handful of days? It's been interesting. Let's see. I went in and I dealt yesterday. Riff Raff says, can we find the TCH live stream somewhere? Yeah, just search for Texas Card House. Search for that in YouTube, and you will find their channel with like 22,000 subscribers, and there will be you just watch it on YouTube. That's where the live stream is, right on their channel. Run says, I play Texas Hold'em with a poker league too, free poker in Virginia, so dealing Texas Hold'em wouldn't be hard. Awesome. There is a room out in Virginia that will be opening at some point soon that I've done some work with the ownership of, and they're really great people. I hope they get their license really soon. Riff Raff says, got it, subscribed. Excellent, yeah. I hope they get their license really soon, but perhaps you'd be able to deal there. It's in Richmond. It's called Pop's Poker Room. And yeah, poker's coming to Virginia, so are casinos. All right, so stories. I have tomorrow off, so I'll check it out. Great. Let's see, stories about dealing poker recently. Let's see. You know, it does tend to sort of blend in day after day. It's like I sort of go in there and I have a little fun with people here and there. I've had a bunch of people shout me out, and huge thank you to everybody that shouts me out. And you know, people saying they like the interviews, they want more of them. People saying that they like having me available for the QAs. I did deal. Let me see. I did deal one hand that sort of stands out. So in the 2-5 no limit games, the deep stack games, when a dealer first sits down at the table, the players have the option of playing a bomb pot. And in the 2-5 no limit games, they let them play a pot limit Omaha bomb pot if they want. In Brad Owen's recent poker vlog, which I watched some of them because they're interesting. You know, I'll throw it on while I'm cooking or something, which is what I did last night. He was talking about how brutal it was playing pot limit Omaha bomb pots because he was getting crushed at them at one point. And, you know, these players, they're used to playing Texas Hold'em. They don't really know pot limit Omaha, and yet they still play these bomb pots for $15 a piece. Well, I had this table where there was this guy that went all in, or he raised to the pot on the flop. The next guy raised to the pot. This guy raised to the pot. So they're all in at this point. It's a pot on the flop. They're going to be all in. And I watched one of them push their stack out, and the other person didn't put any chips out. And I'm like, all right, push your chips out. Let's see how much it is. Why was I doing that? Because that's the rules of the room. And this guy was looking at me like I didn't understand how to deal. And he started explaining to me, well, listen, there's 2 boards there, so it's probably going to be a chop. Just run it out and we'll figure it out after if we have to. And I had to make a decision in that moment. Did I want to deal with the conversation of, I understand what you're saying, but the rule at this house is we have to bring the bets out ahead of time? Or did I want to just go along with it and not deal with it? I decided to just go along with it and not deal with it. And, it's sort of the players at the table sometimes will just try to bully you to get the things that they want. Like say, oh, it's not a big deal. The same exact table. So long story short, I let them do it. They did end up chopping. It did end up saving time. I did break procedure a little bit in order to do that. I sort of felt like, all right, I'll give these guys this one, but the next time they speak up, if I need to sort of push back, I'm going to. It's always a little bit of a game as a poker dealer, figuring out when you want to enforce the rules to a T and when you want to push back for things that probably don't actually matter. However, I did have this next hand come up. It was maybe 1 or 2 hands later, where there was a player that was up from the table, and because they pay time at Texas Card House, we deal everybody in. Now, the only place they allow the players to straddle from are under the gun, and so the under the gun player was up from the table, so I had to deal him in, and the player after that wanted to put out a straddle, and so he puts the straddle out, and I'm like, oh, I have to deal this player, and I can't. And he starts going on about how stupid I am and how stupid the rule is, and I'm sort of just like, okay. Look, I can. So whenever this happens to you, okay, if you're dealing and there's a simple rule that you have to enforce it. It's the rule. It's not that hard to say, look, this is a rule of the house. Would you like me to call the floor? That's the language I use with him. That's the language you can use anytime you're dealing. And there's a player that wants you to break the rules. I could have used that same language for the first player who was telling me, just run it out and we'll figure it out after if we have to, because it's 2 boards and a lot of the time we're going to chop. I chose not to do it with him because it actually does save time for me to do it that way, and I can sort of ask for forgiveness from the floor if for some reason I get in trouble for that. But in this case, I couldn't ask for forgiveness because this would be actually violating something that changes the structure of the game if I let the second player straddle, assuming that the first player is going to fold. And it confuses everything, right? Because if you have an under the gun player that gets dealt in that's not at the table, and you have the next player after them try to straddle, the action's supposed to start to the left of the straddle, and it's just really weird. Like, do you just muck the under the gun player's hand right away? It just doesn't work. So now it can be done as a sleeper straddle, but that's not the rule at the house that I'm dealing in, right? So long story short, told the player, I can call the floor if you want, I just can't allow you to do this. And he did his, bitching and moaning, and I just sort of let him do it. A lot of the time, the players are going to support the dealer in that case. Not at this table. It is what it is. Sometimes you got to deal with these types of conversations where they direct stuff at you that's got nothing to do with you, Let's see. Riff says, I have tomorrow off, so check it out. Run says, oh, I saw an ad for that, but they haven't responded on Facebook yet. Got it. Riff says, I shortened that when a player started to argue with me about having to post a blind. Floor table 7, yeah. Well, you can certainly shorten that and just call the floor if you ever want to. The players where you are might be a little tougher than the players where I are. I know that in Florida, I would have been calling floor more than offering floor, if that makes sense. In Texas, it's generally super chill, so I just don't worry about that. Although I have noticed the longer the room's been open, the more some of these players start changing the vibe at the table because they're losing regularly and it's affecting their mental health. And it's sort of, I don't know, they just sort of stop caring, if that makes sense. It creates a bit of a vibe. But I feel very appreciative that all you guys came in and tuned in on this live stream, and looking forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. I will be back here on Tuesday, and if you guys have any anybody that you want me to interview that you have access to, let me know. I am excited to do another interview at some point soon for a live stream session. So thank you guys for coming and joining. And Riffraff says, Mark, thanks for the stream. Appreciate you too. You're welcome. Thank you guys for being here this week, and I'll see you in the future.